I just got divorce papers from my husband while he was away on a work trip, and now I'm starting to put two and two together, and I'm seeing all these red flags in front of me that I must have missed over the months. Let me tell you what I found out about my husband and his work trips. My husband's just sent me divorce papers, and I did not see this coming. Never believe a person when they tell you everything's okay when you, though, sense that everything is not okay. Always trust your gut feeling because it will never let you down. If I had trusted my gut feeling, then this would have not sprung up on me. Right after we made plans to build our future, my husband sprung this on me. I feel my strength fading and my mind running at 1,000,000 miles per hour. Nothing makes sense anymore. It's day 3 and I've not left the house at all. Sometimes I get myself to leave my bed, get dressed, and make food for myself. The food, it has no taste. Every couple of minutes I reach for the divorce papers that were delivered just a few days back. Every couple of seconds I start to cry even more. And it hurts. He told me that he would be back in just a couple days, and by then I should have all of my crap packed up. He says that I could keep everything, he would not fight me for it. All the money in the bank accounts, the house, our shared vehicle. He's really decided just to start fresh. I still have to ask him what we're going to do about the one asset that he does not even know we have. It is the most precious one, some say, which I don't think I can share with him, not with the way that I hate him right now. For the record, I have no idea that my marriage was in trouble. My husband was working very hard because we've been trying to build a future for ourselves, and he's told me that he had a business trip out of the country, and after that trip, all would make sense. I took it to mean that our lives would finally get on track. So when I got an email with good news a few days after he left, I decided that I had to wait till he came back. A few days after that, I was served divorce papers, and at first I thought it was a gag. Our marriage is fine. We are young, happy, and still have passion in our marriage. Even with our busy schedules, we're still able to spend quality time with each other. That's why none of this made any sense to me. So I called him and asked what it was about. He told me that he was sorry that he had to do this, but there was so much that I simply didn't know, and he did not want to carry on hurting me. He confessed right then and there that something's been going on with his boss. He never intended to start something with her in the very first place, it just happened. He said that he connected with her on a very intellectual level, and that it was so different than with me. He said with me, it's been hard, and he said that being around me was emotionally draining, because all I cared about was my surrogacy. He said that he's come to resent me due to our multiple failed attempts at getting pregnant. He then said that Allison's been there for him at the time, and when I did not see that he was hurting, he added that he did not want either of us to continue wasting time on something that simply didn't work. So he wanted to leave me because he wanted to marry her. He said that I could keep all of our assets and he was going to start over. I was frozen with shock and could not even say what I wanted to say. So I told him that it's okay and that I would get my lawyer on it. A voice inside me told me to tell him that finally our surrogate was pregnant. We were going to be parents, but I knew better than to trap a man with a child. I'll tell him about our child when he comes back. He'll have to be a part of the child's life and co-parent with me for many, many years. I feel sad because the child's not going to grow up in a loving home like I wanted it to. Instead, it'll grow up with disarray. So, what does one do when their entire world's falling apart? I don't think that moping around this apartment and crying is the best thing. I remember the day that we moved in. We had just lost a bid on the place that we wanted to buy, and it was the most beautiful little house with a garden and a good view. And when he told me that someone else had gotten the house, I was so sad. When I get sad, I retreat, and everything lost color, and I could not see myself living anywhere else. A couple days later, he practically flew through the door, telling me that he found the perfect place. It was the beautiful, artistic apartment, decently priced and spacious, and when I went to see it, I fell in love with it. I was happy with it, and with him for making my dream come true. I fell even more in love with him that day, and maybe I should be grateful that he's willing to give it up for me. He will not need this either way because he's about to be rich. This has to be about the money. I know him. When I married him, I knew that he loved money a lot. He was honest with me on our first date. He said that he loved the money and was going to dedicate his life to making as much of it as possible. He dreamt about sport cars, mansions, traveling the globe, and the respect that it earned as a person. I was not one to judge him. I always say that we all have our vices, and as our relationship progressed, I got used to the fact that he was always just wanting what was best. He was the type to work on a public holiday if it meant that he was getting more money. I understood where that stemmed from because he confessed to me that he grew up without a lot of stuff. Not much money. I thought that our life together would show him that there's other riches to be had than the dollar bill, but deep down I've always sensed that there was a longing for more. I should have given up to his vices when I had the chance. When our wedding was nearly called off because he got us a venue that was beyond our means, I should have called the wedding off. Instead, I told myself that I could love him and we could conquer all. For all those who are going to get married, think long and hard about the person that you're actually going to get married to. I'm not saying that they have to be perfect, but you must ask yourself if you're able to be to the second of the biggest vices. That is if they failed to control them. Now that I think about it, it all makes sense, guys. That watch he claimed a client bought for him being able to book us a table at a 5-star restaurant even though we were counting each penny. I should have noticed. My husband has a sugar mommy. Yes, that's what this woman is. She's 20 years his senior and filthy rich. She's not his type physically, so it's clear it has to be about the money. Right? She seduced him with a glimpse into her life, and he's fallen for it, and when I met her, she's given me some very bad vibes. She's reminded me of a predator. With those intensive eyes of hers, one could almost say that she can put anyone under her spell. What he does not know is that she's smarter than he is. Does he really think that he's going to marry her for money and then get a free ride in life? No, I don't think so. I've met many women like her in my life. She guards what she holds dearest and will do anything to get what she wants and just will discard it when she becomes bored. She can have anything and anyone she wants in life. I mean, why would she pick him? He has nothing in life except for his looks. If she wants him, then she can have him. I hope they burn each other. Update number 1. Hey everyone, it's been almost a month since my post and I just wanted to give an update. My divorce, it went quicker than I thought it would. I feel a bit relieved that it's actually said and done. I wish that after this day I did not have to see him. Alas, we do share a child these days. I told him about the successful implantation when he got back and fetched his clothing and he cried. It was the first time seeing him cry. As he held me, I thought that he might change his mind and say that he wanted to raise the child with me. Of course, I was going to be hopeful, I guess. He left soon after and we only communicated through lawyers after that. Allison involved herself, and as I assumed she would, she invited me for a coffee at her bougie house and basically laid the terms out to me. I was going to give him an amicable divorce with no objections, and when the child was born, we could share custody, but I was not to try to take him away from her. Well, I agreed with the terms. I mean, what else could I do? He wanted her, and it made me sick to my stomach to see it every single day. He came with her to court and left with her, and the betrayal, it would sometimes just overwhelm me. Some dark thoughts would enter my mind when I saw them together, guys. I learned how to bury them deep within, and I focused on making sure that the divorce was smooth and that they were both out of my life. My family was my support system, and our divorce sent shockwaves through the entire family and our friend groups. At least people checked in on me and took my side in the matter. My mother ended up moving in with me because I was going mad staying in that apartment alone. The only thing that made me wake up was knowing that in a couple of months I was going to have a little baby. My mom told me that the love I was going to get from that little one was absolutely incomparable. She told me that my baby would love me more than anyone else in the world, and I'm looking forward to that. I just wish that I don't have to share custody with him. He barely spends time with the baby, and Allison is always dragging him to events, and I'm the one who has to do everything for our surrogates. It's fine though, I get along well with her. Besides, this could make me have a strong bond with our baby. My surrogate hates Ellington. She says that he's not a man for what he's done, and who would leave their family for a little bit of money. She reckons that I'll find someone better. I'm young, not bad looking, and have a good personality. Those are her words, not mine. So I guess the verdict is that at least he is completely out of my life. And I can start a new chapter. Update number 2. I knew that we were never going to last. His love for money was going to backfire on him one day, and I would not be there to save him. I was not wrong. He's back in my life, and he's begging me to take him back nearly 7 months later. It appears that he got engaged to a mad woman, and she'll not let him escape. That's what I've been able to make out from what he's told me, and he's not very coherent. I will have to ask him again when he wakes up, and he's sleeping in the guest bedroom. He showed up at my door last night completely wasted. He was crying and telling me that he was so sorry and that he could not do this anymore. I'd barely been getting any sleep because my daughter was crying all night, and right when she had settled down and I could get some decent sleep, he decides to show up. You can imagine that I was not very happy with him, and he told me that he needed a place to sleep, and then he would tell me everything. He only gave me a rush summary of what happened, and he said that the woman was crazy. She was the devil, and he could not believe that he's chosen her over me and our kid. You can imagine what my reaction was. I was unimpressed and just disappointed in him. It's now 7 a.m. in the morning, and I've woken up to make a bottle for my baby. He was awake and sitting in the living room when I woke up. He said hi to me and would not look me in the eyes, and I made him a sandwich and told him that it would help him with his shaking. He thanked me and managed to finish half of it, and I got him another blanket and told him to go to sleep. He said that he could not, and everything was coming back to him. That's when I noticed blood on the back of his shirt. I told him, "Take your shirt off. What the hell's going on?" He tried to refuse, but I was adamant enough, and when I say that his back was literally ribbons, I'm not exaggerating. I was shocked at who could have possibly have done this to him, and I asked if she was the one who did this. He said yes, she was, and I asked him how often this happens, and he told me that she had a bad day. She gave him some pills that he had always said no to her before, but this time she forced him and told him if he didn't take them, then he did not care for her. So he took them, and he even drank a bit. She then got a phone call and starts to get snappy. Not long after, she was shouting at him, and that was when she physically attacked him. He did not defend himself. He said that she was so small and frail, he didn't want to hurt her. He did notice how bad it was until he tried to sleep. He saw how it looked and decided that he needed to get away from her. By then, what she gave him was already starting to set in, and he felt disoriented and was panicking a lot, which I guess I can understand. What the hell did she give him? He said that he ended up at my house, and he doesn't remember most of what he said to me. Well, I decided right then that we needed to go to the hospital so that he could get tested and also treated for what she did to him. This made me question their so-called happy relationship, and she was clearly unstable and was putting him through hell. I'm glad that he came back for me, just to get a bit of help. Update number 3. Hey guys, it's a day later, and he has just been discharged. She came to my house to look for him, but I told her that he wasn't here. She tried to forcefully look through my home, but I told her that I'd call the cops on her. Who does she think she is? I was not kidding. I was dying to send her to jail. She thinks that just because she has money, she can get away with anything that she does. He's healing pretty well, and they found multiple substances in his blood, but they managed to get everything out, and they dressed his back up, which was thankfully not cut too deep. They asked him to press charges, but he decided not to. The drive home was silent. I had so many questions for him, but I decided to ask him when he was stronger. I've been checking in on him as often as I can and also taking care of the baby. The baby seems to have taken a good liking to him. This reminds me that this is the only second time he's seen her since she was born. When I sent him messages asking when he would want to visit, he didn't even respond. I figured he was busy and resented him for that. So now we wait to see what he does once he's recovered. I've just received a text from her. She told me to tell him to see her before the end of the week or he could kiss his job goodbye. Oh, Ellington, what have you gotten yourself into? Anyone can tell that, well, you're not all that glittering gold, especially when it comes to people who seem perfect like that, like they have it all together. Now she's threatening to take his job away, all because he left her. I'm going to tell him what she said and see if he'll allow her to threaten him. If I were him, I would cut my losses and move on from her. She seems to be very toxic and manipulative. I mean, how can he get married to someone like that? Update number 4. I should have given her back to him when he asked for her. He is proven to be spineless and not the man that I got married to. And even had a child with. I mean, how can he say all these things to me and expect him to believe me when his actions are not the same? It's been months since he showed up at my door and he left within a week, heeding her threat. After that, I've seen him several more times. Each time he's told me how much he hates her and regrets ever choosing her over me. He said that he could not understand how he got attracted to her and she was not his type and was way older. To that, I had to remind him that he saw all that she could offer and he lost his mind. Many people have always fallen for that trick. He said no, that cannot be it. She had to have done some mind trick on him to be with her, and I then asked him why he was still with her. He asked what choice he had when everything that he owned was bought by her. He had nothing to his name since he's given me everything in the divorce, and it had all part of the plan to make sure that he was completely dependent on her, and you know what? It worked. So, I told him that there was nothing I could do to help him, and he had to tell her that he did not want her to see her face. Soon they would get married, and it would even get harder to separate from her. He told me that she would kill him if he tried to leave her. Part of me felt like he was not just using a figure of expression. If she did not get him, then there would be a war. And if she knew that he's been begging me to get back with him, she would flip. I said no to him every time and reminded him of how easily he discharged me. He begged me day by day to let him stay with me and the baby. I felt that he was just saying that because I was stable, and how could I trust him after everything that he's done to me, to us? There was simply no going back at this point, and he was telling me one thing but proclaiming his love for her in public. So, what if I take him back and he decides to keep us a secret? He claims that he'll figure out a way to make sure that our daughter and I are taken care of and safe from Allison. I don't like his tone when he speaks about this. It has dark undertones. I don't want to claim to accuse him of anything, but it's got me thinking he could commit a crime of passion. Or maybe this was his plan in the beginning. I mean, to marry the old woman and then come back to his one true love and baby? No, I'm going about this all wrong. I cried for 3 days straight because of this man. There's no way that he cares about me, and I have to get through to me that he doesn't care. These are all mind games and manipulation, and he's just looking for a backup contingency plan. Update number 5. OMW, I cannot breathe right now. I was this close to becoming part of something that could have ruined my life. 2 weeks ago, when I posted an update, I had no idea how close to the truth I was. His relationship with Allison was very dark, unhealthy. There was an unequal power dynamic, and he sought to change it. He wanted all the power and all her money, and that's why he stuck around. I knew it. He was only with her for the money, and he tried to convince me that he hated her, so when his plan succeeded, he could come back to me. Luckily for me, my eyes are open, and now he'll reap where he is sown. A dark night has descended upon our town, for Allison's house caught on fire last night. And you know what? She was in there. She was sent to the hospital due to smoke inhalation and is still there. There was no news of Ellington, and many feared that he succumbed to the flames. When I heard this, I cried like the very life within me was being ripped out. Even after all that he's done, I cared about him and have never wished him death. By the end of the day, they've declared him dead and were investigating the fire. That night, I was woken up by something, and it felt like someone was at my window and might have even called my name. I went to check the window, and lo and behold, he's risen from the dead. I hurried to let him inside, and he was wet, for it's been raining, which was quite ironic, right? He told me to sit down. He had something very important to tell me. So, I complied and sat down and allowed him to tell me the craziest story I've ever heard. He said that in the beginning all he wanted was money. He had dreamt of the power for long, so he loved it more than he loved me. When she showed interest in him, he played along. She then gave him the ultimatum to leave me. He thought he could put up with her for years after she was gone, and he would have her entire estate. What he did not know was that she was crazy, controlling, and abusive. She starts to show her true signs to him, and that's when he knew something had to happen. That night, she nearly killed him, and he says that I saved his life. When I saved him, he simply realized that he had lost track a little bit. He wanted me and the baby to be back in his life. He just had to get rid of that monster who was causing him misery. He told me that he knew that he's gotten rid of her when she told him that she wanted him to fight for custody for our baby. She wanted to make me feel pain for helping him and for not staying away from him. The wedding was getting closer and she was getting more persistent. He could not kill her because everybody would suspect him. But what if something happened to both of them and there were no survivors? He told me that over the past couple of weeks he's been moving money to an offshore account. Now, he'd come to take me and show me that he was a man of action. He said he's sorry for letting the money get to him, but now he would have both of the things that he loved. He told me that he needed a place to lay low for a couple days and then he would leave town. I'd follow after him in a couple of months, claiming that I got a new job. We would get away with it and live a new life with no one else. I cried when I heard what he told me. I was speechless, my mind was scrambled, and I didn't know what to do. So he begged me to stay that night, and I told him that he could. He asked me if he could sleep in the same room as me and our baby, and the baby slept between us, and he had a smile on his face when we went to bed. The next morning, he was woken up by the police. They pulled their guns out on him and demanded that he allowed himself to be arrested. Our daughter was safe with the neighbor, and I've taken her there 30 minutes prior so that she would not be in the middle of all this. When he realized what was going on, he reached into his pocket and came for me. The knife grazed my cheek before the cops managed to apprehend him. I thought that they were going to start shooting. I could not have that due to my past trauma, obviously, so I started crying and begging them not to shoot. A very nice lady then took me to the kitchen and gave me some water. As he was being taken away, he was cursing and saying that he never thought I would do something like this. He claimed that it was all for me and his daughter. Not like this. This is not how you show someone that you love them. I wish that he had not done this at all. I wish that he had never sent those papers. I would not be having to watch him being taken away in handcuffs today. Final update. It's been 6 months later, guys, and I have an update for you. First of all, thank you for the supportive comments. My daughter and I are doing so much better than a couple months ago. I've been going to therapy since the whole thing affected me to the point where I could not sleep. My mom had to take in my daughter for a while because I was spiraling. After months of therapy, I was finally okay. Allison did not pass away, but she did press charges against him for trying to kill her for setting fire to the house. He got 5 years. Yep, 5 years in the slammer. But she was not far behind because when they were investigating the money that he stole from her, they took a closer look into her finances as well, and what did they find? Dear Allison's been laundering money for years right under their nose. They would have never caught on if my ex had not started stealing money from her. She was humiliated, and all of her assets were frozen. She ended up in jail for what she's been doing for almost 3 years now, and she's still in there, and I honestly hope that she rots in there. In 3 years, she'll be back, but it makes me happy that she'll have nothing to fall back on. She'll not have all the power that she used to intimidate people with. She even wanted to take my baby away from me just so that she could hurt me. I know that I'm not the one who carried this baby, but her DNA is mine, and I do feel a motherly instinct. You best bet that if someone dared to try to take her, I would fight her to the ends of the world. So, in the end, there was no wedding, just a scandal, and soon enough it all died down and life went back to normal. I've not gone to see Ellington yet, even though his mom has begged me to go and see him. She says that he's very sorry about what he did, and he only did it because of love. This is a man who admitted to me that he loved money more than he loved me. I was just an afterthought because he realized how lonely someone can be if they have money. I'm not going to forgive a person like that ever. I know that many people claim that forgiveness heals and all that. Well, it's not for me. Even if I forgive him or I don't, I'll still be stuck with his trauma and his pain. He's put me through an emotional ringer for the past few months, and it'll take time for me to heal. That's the reason I never want to see him and why I'll make sure that our daughter is never a part of his life, even when he's released from prison. Alright, so this comment section was so interesting, guys. People were split 50-50. A lot of people were saying that OP should not have called the cops on her husband. What he did was out of love. He was stuck in a position, so he set fire to his previous life to try to get back to OP. Every other person in the comment section said that's bullcrap. This guy needed to be turned in. He just burned a house down, potentially killed someone, and he's on the run. You don't want to be a part of this madness in your life, so calling the cops was the best solution. I do want to hear your thoughts about it, so drop it in the comment section down below, guys. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories like this every single day. And if you guys want to be a part of these daily readings, the best way to get involved is simply to subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed today's story. It was full of ups and downs and a lot of wacky adventures. But at the end of the day, let me know what you thought about it. I hope you guys have a great one. I'll see you tomorrow. And remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.